Hey guys, this is Woodshop Junkies and today I'm doing some more machine restorations. Right guys, so recently I got my hands on these two beat up machines and I haven't been able to test if they're working because they're not really connected and the wiring's a mess. But I'm not complaining because I got them for next to nothing. So in these videos I'm going to try and restore these machines not only to a working condition but something that resembles their glory days and also focus on safety. Now for the sake of organization, I'm going to make two separate videos focusing on one tool per video. So I'm splitting this video now. Right, so first up is the drill, and as I mentioned, I haven't been able to test it or plug it in due to shaky wiring. But the good news is when I turn it over here, the rotation is transferred to the motor, so it doesn't seem like anything is seized except the chuck itself. So that's obviously going to need to be repaired. At least the press mechanism seems to be working fine and there's almost no play on it. But this external spring has to go. Besides that, most of the damage seems to be cosmetic. The paint is chipped and faded and there's rust. Lots of it. Now obviously I haven't tested the electricals, the motor windings, the cap or the switch. So I'm going to start by stripping this thing down into its bare components so I can assess each part individually. Okay, so like with all my restorations, I start by stripping the machine down into its bare components. This allows me to assess each component individually and work on a game plan on how I'm going to go about restoring it. It also allows me to analyze any hidden damage to avoid nasty surprises halfway through the restoration. Taking the machine apart, I can definitely notice some sketchy retrofitted parts that will need to be replaced, and I'm going to have to find a supplier that's able to manufacture a replacement spring. Besides that, the spindle and the other mechanical components look like they are in pretty good shape. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I need to test the motor and get the chuck unseized before I can commit to this restoration. Okay, so the motor starts and runs well. I'm getting a little bit of a carbon smell coming from it, but it could be because this motor probably hasn't run in the last 10 to 20 years. Other things I was looking for was vibration and noise, which I'm also not getting, so I'd say this motor is actually in a very good condition. Before jumping in on the drill, I'm going to do a mini restoration on the motor. Which involves taking it apart, cleaning it up, stripping off all the old paint, giving it a fresh coat and putting it back together. Now normally when I service a motor it is standard practice to replace the bearings, but this motor doesn't have bearings, it only has bushings, and because they aren't worn I'm not going to replace them because I won't find spares. I'm going to have them fabricated. To clean up, I use thinners and a wire brush on all the components except the stator because I do not want to risk damaging the stator with harsh chemicals. For the stator winding and the centrifugal switch I use electronic switch cleaner just to displace any dirt or dust that may be deposited on these components. I then use odorless paint stripper and a wire brush on my cordless drill to remove the paint off of the exterior surfaces of all the components. Now guys, I do realize that this is a very tedious way of doing this when you compare it to sandblasting, but because I do not have that facility, I'm going to have to get someone to do it, and I don't really trust someone else to not damage these sensitive components or the sensitive parts of these components. With the paint stripped, I'm ready to give this old motor a fresh coat, and I'm going to do this while the motor is assembled but without the rotor. So to prevent overspray or paint getting onto the windings, I covered it with tape. With the paint on the motor drying, I used the opportunity to strip the rust off of all these small unpainted components. Now, though I don't show it, this is a 24-hour soaking process to get the best results. And with everything prepped, it is time to get the motor assembled and back up and running. Though the old capacitor was working, it was physically damaged and not really nice to look at, so I made a PVC enclosure or tube to install a more modern, more compact capacitor. Right, so fantastic, the motor is working. The next obstacle or problem I need to eliminate is the chuck, which is seized and very badly rusted, before I can commit to this restoration. Now, before I jump in on the chuck, I'm going to remove all the additional or unnecessary hardware on the spindle so I can clean that up separately. The correct tool for removing the chuck is a pinhook wrench, which I don't have, and I was not able to track one down in my immediate marketplace, so I needed to make do with what I had. Because I'm not really using the correct tools for the job, I put some insulation tape on the chuck, so I'm hoping that would prevent it from being scratched during the taking off process. Now, normally when I have to deal with a seized component or a seized part, my first step is slapping it with some WD-40. If that doesn't get it undone, it means I'm going to have to take it apart. And as is so often the case, all the chuck needed was a bit of penetrating oil. Now guys, this is a fantastic product, so I will add it to my Amazon storefront if you guys want to check out pricing and availability. I also do want to mention that WD-40 is not a sponsor on my channel. I am simply adding it because it is a product I use and I have had some good results. While I soak the chuck in a bit of vapor rust, I can jump on stripping some of the bulkier items that need to go for sandblasting. Now guys, sandblasting is the only thing that has been common to all my restorations, which I am unable to do at home. So if I'm going to continue with my restoration projects, which is very likely, I'm probably going to look into getting a sandblasting setup at home. After a soak in vapor rust and a polish with the wire brush, the chuck is looking good as new, so I'm not going to bother taking it apart. There's no play on the components, the teeth look good, so I really don't think it's necessary. Using the leftover rust remover, I dump in some of the smalls before getting the old grease and oil off the larger components with some thinners. For now, I'm not going to worry about replacing these bearings because after a good clean, they seem to be doing quite alright. In my experience on these old machines, bearings can be quite tricky to track down, so I'm not going to replace them unless I notice a noise or a vibration on the machine. With the smalls prepped and the larger exterior or cosmetic components all for sandblasting, it's time to jump on the pillar, which is very badly rusted. The drill press bed is quite damaged due to what I guess you can only really call bad drilling practice, and to repair it I have one of two options. I can either have it welded up and the bed placed on a surface grinder, or I can cap it with a steel plate. With all the components cleaned up, I am ready to start painting and getting this machine assembled.
With the pillar prepped and painted, I got the other large components back from the sandblasters. Next, they need to be painted, and I'm going for a two-tone finish on the final product. For my restored color scheme, I wanted to be inspired by the original look of the drill, but still give it a modern twist. So instead of the original cream enamel, I went for a metallic copper hammer tone. A decision I regretted right after I started painting, because the copper seemed to be a bit flashy, but it was too late to turn back now, so I needed to hope for the best. But when I started assembling the project, the copper seemed to be less in your face, and with each component added, it became much more subtle. And the more I was assembling this drill, the more I started liking the copper and black color scheme. At the moment, I don't have on-off indicators. I will have some nice plates or indicator plates made up at some point. I don't want to just stick some stickers on there. It's really not going to fit with the overall look of the drill. As for the spring, I really didn't have time to have one manufactured, so I'm using a generic off-the-shelf spring. It is not the strongest, but it will do for now.
And that's another vintage power machine restoration done and dusted, and I am very pleased with the results. I was a bit on the fence about the copper paint, but in the end I think it turned out very nicely. Now some of you guys are probably wondering why I would go through all the effort of restoring this machine while I have a perfectly good working bench drill or drill press in my workshop already. Well, firstly, I really enjoy doing these restorations, and secondly, because I paid almost nothing for this machine, I can sell it and maybe make some money. It is a bit overkill for my workshop and the type of work I do anyway. In the end, I still had fun doing this project. I learned a lot and I am pleased with the results. Now guys, next I'm going to start with the compressor and some of my other shop projects. So if you aren't subscribed yet and you want to see those, remember to do that now. For the guys that have been following my channel that know that I'm working up on going full-time with this gig, a like and a comment goes a long way. Let me know what you think of this restoration. What do you think of the color scheme? Do you like it? Don't you like it? And is there anything you would have done differently? Then remember guys, if you want to support my channel, you can check out my socials, my Amazon storefront or my merch storefront. All the relevant links are down below. And if you want to be really generous, you can hit that super thanks button. For now, however, comes the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Till next time. Cheers.